right, so what is a perfect credit score? The number is 850. If you're looking for a goal, if you're looking for a number to strive to obtain, as far as credit scores go, 850 is your number. Now, know that anything above 760 is considered good, and you shouldn't have any problem getting approved from any loans or lines of credit with a number of 760 or above. 800 to 850, you're considered exceptional, and that's a phenomenal range to be in. You should take a lot of pride if you are in that currently, or in the future, if you eventually get there, between 800 and 850. Now, what is interesting to me, and I was surprised to see this, and I've talked to other people in the same situation. Like, if you didn't have any debt, your number's going to be good. But your number will actually go up if you take on some debt. And so that means you might have to have some debt to get a perfect credit score, which to me sounds wild and weird. But so you really got to think of, all right, is it worth getting to 850 once you get, or if you get some debt? Is it worth that? So I think getting a perfect credit score is more for bragging rights more than anything, because here's why. You're probably, no wonder if you got 800, 815, 817, 825, you're going to get approved and get good rates on your credit cards or your loans or whatever debt you might have to take out. It won't make a difference, in my opinion, whether or not you're 825 or 850. And if it means taking out or getting into debt or taking on some debt to get 850, you got to think long and hard about it if it's worth that. But here's how you raise your credit score. Here's how people that have a 850, a perfect credit score, here's some common traits and characteristics of them. One is they have multiple lines of credit, usually 6+ credit cards or more. Doesn't mean they have debt on every single one of those credit cards, or they owe anything on those credit cards, but they have multiple lines of credit. Not only that, they might have a car loan, have a mortgage, student loans. They have all these different lines of credits, a nice variety. So that plays a factor. Now, when the national average in the United States is usually around $6,000 of credit card debt, well, people that have really good credit scores or perfect credit scores, 850, have about half that on average, about $3,000. They pay their bills on time. They never miss any payments. They're never late for any payments. And they just manage it. They know how to manage it. So if you take on debt, like I always say in these videos, I don't think debt's bad and credit cards are bad. Getting loans are bad necessarily if you can afford them. And just because you take out money on a credit card or put $2,000 on a credit card doesn't mean that's a bad thing if you don't have to pay any interest on it for a year. You got the cash sitting there in your bank account to pay it off. Plus you get cash back or rewards or travel points. There's a lot of benefits to it. So think about ways that you can increase your lines of credit, and you're in a position to financially pay those credit cards off, pay those loans off if you need to. When the time's right, ASAP's usually the best thing to do. Or at the very least, don't miss any payments, don't miss any, or don't be late for any payments. Another thing to kind of consider is your length of credit history. So if you're young, just be patient, keep making those payments, keep paying off that stuff, because length of credit history does play a role in your credit score. Your income doesn't affect your credit score, so don't think you need to be rich to have a high credit score. If you're responsible, if you manage your debt, if you manage your finances well, then it doesn't matter. As long as you're living within your means, you can have the opportunity, just like anybody else does, to have a high credit score no matter what your income is. Now, you need some kind of income, of course, to pay your bills and pay your debts off and things. So that's something to kind of think about. One is if you're striving to get a credit score of 850, there might not be that big of an advantage to it if you're already 760 or above. It fluctuates so much. Like I was saying earlier, there's some instances where your credit score goes up if you take on more debt, and not everybody's comfortable doing that. Or is it worth taking on more debt just so you can have a higher credit score? One thing or a couple of things you want to think about is, one, always monitor your credit score. Access those credit reports, and you got several agencies that do that, Experian. And so you want to make sure that you're monitoring your credit, because unfortunately, the higher your credit score, the better your credit is, the more vulnerable you are to cyber attacks and people trying to hack in and doing identity theft because you got a good credit score. So great power comes great responsibility, huh? Great purchasing power comes great responsibility, I guess. So always access your credit report, once a year, once every, whatever's comfortable for you, to make sure that what lines of credit you got out there, make sure nobody's opened up anything without your knowing. And so it's good to see where you stand. And another thing to kind of keep in mind is, if you want a high credit score or keep your credit score high, try not to apply for too many lines of credit in one time. Space them out. Maybe one every year or something, every couple years. Just watch applying for so many lines of credit in a short period of time. So hopefully those tips will help you out. If you're above 760, you should feel really good about yourself. If you're over 800, phenomenal, that's wonderful. But don't sweat it, don't stress too much of trying to get to 850. If that means a lot to you, then great, but I don't think it'll matter much if your credit score is already over 760. And if you got multiple lines of credit, you're in good shape. If you can manage that, if you don't, get yourself in too much debt, but you probably won't anyway, because that's how you got to this high credit score in the first place, being disciplined, being responsible, being accountable, and paying your bills off or paying your debts on time. So congratulations. So hopefully those tips will help you. If you're trying to improve your credit score, common sense, pay your bills, pay them off, apply for multiple lines of credit, but space them out where you're not doing them too much at one time, and check your credit report often, and you should be good to go. I would love to hear how you have improved your credit score, how you're going to plan on improving your credit score. Put them in the comments below, and I'd love to hear back from you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, if you want all the latest videos, money-making tips, money-saving tips, and how to live a simple life on your own terms. Take care.